So. Kann es ja weitergehen. So, hoffen wir, dass ich die Untersuchung heute Twitch machen kann. Mal Wasser aufmachen. So. Was? Relocation? Ah, Forensic Laboratory. Ja, aber ich gehe erstmal Stück für Stück. Mal ins Gefängnis. Und was macht er da? It's October, local prison cell 11. What's he doing? He's... Oh my... The whole world of the cell is covered in mathematical equations? And he is still writing more now. Professor, sorry to interrupt. Oh, Mr. Naruto? And who is this young lady? My name is Sato Mikotoba. I'm Mr. Naruto's tutorial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Oh, if only I met a friend, young woman like you sooner, none of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. That makes no sense at all. Oh dear, I'm sorry if my presence here upsets you. I owe you an apology too, Professor. I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you in wood. In court this morning. Oh no. The whole thing, the whole miserable affair, all happened because I've been such a complete and utter clot. Professor Hairbrain? What even have you been working on in your cell? Oh, haha, you mean that? Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. That the war was all I had to hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to suppress super high voltage indigenous kinesis, maybe? No, actually this is my autobiography. Your autobiography? How I was diddled and fiddled by Albert Hairbrain. I thought I could represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers in an ambitious set of simultaneous equations. Really? I'm going to have to pay back all the loans and took for the kinesis machine, you see? There's going to be a new serial publication from now on, from next month. Part 1, The Odd Birth and Odd Upbringing. Can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talk a little more about the case? Oh yes, of course. I've been working through the numbers. I was diddled, I was fiddled by the pair of them. By Asman and by the aloof engineer Drebber. We are not going to have to sit through an explanation of all these equations, are we? Okay. Everything I believed in has been turned on its head. Ah, guten Morgen, Kira. Wie geht's denn so? So. My research, Mr. Assman, the kinesis machine, my hypothesis even. I'm sorry it's come to this. There was really no other way. No, it's not your fault. Okay, wie schreibst du dann also mit mir? Naja, eigentlich mir geht auch ganz gut. Bin ja eben heimgekommen, hab was gegessen und wollte noch das hier fertig machen. aber wie hast du es denn gemeint? Hast du heute keine Arbeit oder morgen freien Tag? On your phone, wanted to protect my work. Ich hab frei, okay. Ah, frei, nice. Ich habe auch vorgehabt, nur so kurz, vielleicht bis kurz vor 3 zu streamen, je nachdem, weil um 3 kommt eine Pokémon Direct. Ich habe überlegt, das auch zu streamen oder halt selbst zu gucken, je nachdem, wer da ist und so. Wäre schon nice. Oh ja, aber ich kenne das. In den letzten Wochen bin ich auch irgendwie die ganze Zeit müde. Kann jetzt nichts dagegen machen. Protect. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I didn't want to trick the public. No, of course you didn't. But in Kerr this morning I realized something. Ich habe auch erst gestern erfahren, dass also über ein Video, was reserviert werden kann, was auch immer, habe ich dann gestern gesehen. Also keine Ahnung, man kann es ja zusammen gucken, ob in Stream oder auf Stream, je nachdem. Mal sehen, wer halt dann noch da alles da ist. Aber mal sehen, was sie dann so sagen. Oh. If you've done something wrong without knowing, you have still done something wrong. Logically, it makes no difference if you were aware of it or not. Ignorance is poor excuse. The blame still lies with me. Oh, Professor. He believed in me this morning, you know? Barak did. He believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. No, Barak wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure he genuinely believed it. Did he? Huh. I think I understand now. Why it was that he decided to take on the prosecution in my trial, I mean. Noch mehr. After the terrible accident, nobody would believe in my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not any lawyers even. I feel like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. If any other prosecutor had taken the case, if it was anyone other than Barak, I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense. And in that case, you wouldn't have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor. Exactly, which would have been a fate worse than death for me. But Barak insisted that I was a proper man of science from start to finish. You think that's why he... I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul. But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he? Well, admittedly that part of the analysis appears to have some flaws in it. And what about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea? Do you think he set out to trick me from the very start? I'm sorry to say, that does seem likely, yes. When I first met him, he introduced himself as a wealthy financier. He looked over the paper I had written and said my work would benefit all humanity and must be pursued. He was so he was so empathic, but in reality he was the mastermind of some West criminal network, it seems. I still can't believe it. The machine was essentially a set decoration for some stage magic. It probably didn't require a large amount of investment actually, but the scale of it, it was just some small trick. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal, but none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. Many of us take on very illegal part-time work to try to earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To go through all of that, only to be taken for a complete fool, it's too rotten to believe. Yes, I agree. That's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Osman is no more, of course, which leaves only the engineer, Mr. Enoch Trevor. Is he an engineer or a magician or a swindler? It was about a year ago when Mr. Asthma first brought Trevor to meet me at my laboratory. Since then I've met him many times to discuss details about the kinesis machine. But at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist? Oh, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist. What do you mean? He was a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question that the man's a genuine scientist. It's instantly apparent in conversation. I see. But the wretched man deceived you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. Are there no more clues you can give us to this whereabouts? I'm sorry, we only have discussed the kinesis machine, nothing else. Although, just once. I did visit his workshop. Ugh. What workshop? Trevor's enormous fabrication laboratory where he constructed my great machine. Why didn't you mention this before? And of Trevor's workshop. There's every chance we might find the man there. So you have been to Trevor's place of work then? Yes, just once, you understand? It was an enormous place, plenty of room to construct the kinesis machine, you see. Where can we find it? We have to go there at once. There's a good chance that we will find Trevor there. Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear this. I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. I'm so sorry. I was more than half expecting that. You see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there. He blindfolded you? He wasn't taking any chance then? The place was incredible, the pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best, especially French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Ah, the indescribable scent of that imported oil. Perfumes across the world could forget the secret formula and use that instead. What do you think, Mr. Dotto? You the machine for your next birthday? I never used any kind of perfume, Mr. Naruto. I'm not sure I would like to start with that. I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor. You don't have a business card from Mr. Trevor, for example? The man was clearly very cautious, Mr. Dotto. I'm sure he would never... Ah! Yes, I do. He gave me his business card once. Here. Right here, look. What? Let me see that. Do etiquette to the wind, why don't you? Enoch Trevor, engineer. I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address. No. Oh well, I can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful. Trevor's card. Yeah, okay. Oh, what's this then? This dark smudge here. I think perhaps it's machine oil? Ah, yes, possibly. Professor Hairbrain mentioned something about the oil Mr. Trevor was using, didn't he? That it was specially imported, very high quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Yes, that's right, but more importantly, that is more fragrant than the finest perfume, so excuse me a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all. Don't worry, I expect that just because there's such a tiny amount of them here. Okay. Wird bestimmt wichtig. So, dann zur Stage. October, the Great Exhibition grounds, foot of the Crystal Tower. Oh, da ist er ja. Oh, was, der ist ein Hund? Der hat einen Hund? I had no idea there were so many people in the world. I know what you mean. It's really packed here today. It feels as though it's taken us 2 hours just to make our way through the crowds to this point. Has it? I shut my brain down so I didn't really notice, to be honest. Gosh, I do wish I had your absence of my mind sometimes, Mr. Naruto. There you are. I had a feeling your lot would show your mugs before long. Ah, nee, this is... yeah, okay. Oh, Inspector Gregson, I see you had hard work as usual. Warm greetings to you. I do hope you have been keeping well since last we met. What's with all that ceremony? We just saw each other in court this morning. Not you, Sunshine. The gentlewoman so loyally at your side. Why, thank you, Inspector. How good of you to notice. He might be a bit rough around the edges, but he is still a proper English gentleman at heart, I suppose. As you have probably guessed, we are hoping to investigate the scene some more. Ja, kein Problem, ist ja auch gut. Und dann vielleicht mal sehen, wie wir es dann mit dem Pokémon Direct dann später machen. Noch ein bisschen Zeit bis dahin. Ich muss ja nur ein bisschen lesen und untersuchen für momentan ist nicht wirklich so was Spannendes. Also alles okay. Right, well, that's the young trainee's domain. Oi, get over here, Gina. You seem to be busy playing with a puppy, probably giving it a traditional East End training. Ja, genau, also wir gucken, ist ja noch 2 Stunden. Genius, he's a police officer now. Amazing, isn't it? He's a good kid, actually. Heard in the right place anyway. She's got the detection bug, if you ask me. Yep, I think she will follow in my footsteps nicely. Ach komm. Okay. What do you mean? I'm being transferred. It's time for me to say toodaloo to London. Really? That's a bit sudden, isn't it? I had no idea. Where are you going to be posted then? Well, we will come to see you how you are getting along. Haha, not likely. But you're welcome to try, if you don't mind the trip to France, that is. To France? Are you working in the Paris police prefecture? Should be right up my alley. But France? An entirely different country? I don't understand. Why would you be sent there? That's the way the adult world works, Sunshine. No, don't go poking your nose in where it's not wanted. I'm intending to take the kid with me when I go. What? You're taking Gina to Paris? Well, I can't leave her here in London. Who knows what become of her? I suppose he's worried she would slip back into slipping her hands into people's pockets and purses. I don't think he's worried about her pickpocketing, Mr. Naruto. I think he's worried about the Reaper. Oh, of course. So this playing in Inspector Gregson's mind too, is it? Anyway, I haven't mentioned any of this to Gina, so don't go blabbling, you hear me? No, no, of course not. Better keep that divine liver safe on sound. Until all this is over, at least. Oi, did you just call me blooming divine diva again? So, do you hear that, did you? Right, well, any questions about the scene? You can put them to my capable detectives, diva here. Alright, you heard the boss. Ricklestra's in charge now. I suppose I would better keep my word and not mention anything about Paris. Oh, Gina, you have got a new dog, have you? Aww. Isn't that great? Toby is his name. Oh, delightful. He's absolutely adorable. Yes, the dog does seem lovely, but it's the not so lovely Inspector Gregson that's playing on my mind, to be honest. Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright, if it's around here, you can do it what you like. Oh, that's alright, is it? I'm gonna be playing with my new friend here. Ah, yes, Toby. The machine that exploded must be at the top of the stairs, I presume. I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind. Sorry, I can't go up there, Sus. Oh. Just like I told Odo yesterday, even I ain't a lot near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to touch it? The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? That's what you were thinking of? That's the one. That's why only them lot are allowed to investigate it. What are they called again? The forensic something? The forensic investigation team? That's what you were thinking of? That's the one, yeah. But isn't the case that special dispensation has been lifted? I think so, so I don't really get it, to be truthful with ya. You're still supposed to get permission from some bigwig or other, as far as I know. What was the name again? Lord Strange something? I'm not sure that's quite right, Gina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps? That's the one, yeah. Apparently he is always watching the time or something. Actually, we have just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. You what? You have met him? Last time the boss was called, so go and see him. I waited for 3 hours at the coffee's office on Campbeck Snavely. Tragic. Well, the Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene, as long as we touch nothing. Ah, yeah? Honestly. Alright then, go ahead. But if it turns out you're lying, it will be the boss who gets it. He will never eat another chip again on his life. So you're still saying that this is above board, are you? I'm sure everything will be fine. That really would be tragic. Alright then, them the stairs, off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina. It was great, weren't I? I had a right laugh. It was a new one on me, that. You know, being a curt at not spending the whole time worrying I'm about to be found out. You did keep an awful lot of secrets in all your previous curt appearances, didn't you? Yeah, and others made things art for me every single time and all. Just doing my job, Gina. By watching someone else get in the neck is a lot of fun, actually. It was amazing when you showed that dodgy Professor Dodgy experiment was a total fix. The dodgy professor, as you put it, Gina, is Mr. Naruto's client. Yes, I'm starting to wish he wasn't, though. The boss I feel sorry for, sent off all to the impossible. Do you mean? I suppose they arrested another cove in here, and in time for tomorrow and all. You know, the dodgy engineer, what's his name again? Mr. Drebber, you mean? Enoch Drebber? That's the one, yeah. So the police are looking for this mysterious man with the black monocle. I guess they would be. Putting too much. And the boss, if you ask me, he says it's giving him a good edge. Okay, but I do wonder if that's isn't actually from all the fried food. Now, what is there then? The Scotland Yard are trying to track down Mr. Enoch Driver. I wonder if they had any luck. It's really funny looking. Got two eyes, what don't match. Got a glimpse of a picture of him earlier. I mean, I didn't actually pinch it or nothing. The old Travis got it. Sorry, who? You know, that squirming Weiter was always clogging down glasses or the blood-red plonk. Ah, Lord Van Six. As always, added in for me, that cove. Don't know what you're always squalling about, mind. Probably would have been pretty good boss as it goes. You better be the Reaper's apprentice than a detective's trainee. The way I see it, if the choice is between a chop-gassing detective and a cellist-clagging demigod, you are equally badly off with both. Suppose you're right. I hadn't thought of it like that. Glad we put that on the bed. Anyway, the point is, everyone at the yard's dead set on defending the fishy engineer. But there don't seem to be no clues to go on, so they are stuck. There's nothing that can lead us to Drip at all. Where did you find that little mud then, Gina? Oh wait, don't be so flaming rude, although a slight overreaction, don't you think? I ain't no mud, alright. How did they put it? Oh yeah, a bona fide detective. Sorry. I've given them proper title and everything. It's Chief Inspector Toby to you. More senior than Inspector Gregson, see? Oh, so he's a police dog, is he? Police recruit dogs now? I've heard that they're already being used officially in Germany as part of their city policing. They're used for chasing criminals and such like. They have a wonderful sense of smell, after all. I have a fairly good sense of smell myself, as it happens. I can tell undergarments that have been freshly laundered from undergarments that haven't. Oh, that's nothing compared to this little fella, although. Oh, really? According to what the boss said, once Toby has got a good whiff or ear drawers, he could chase that scent on the other side of the world. What? To the other side of the world? You mean he can swim? Mr. Naruto, I think you may have missed the point by rather a wide margin. I just can't believe this little dog has such an incredible skill. I'm telling you, Aldo, there's gonna be more and more dogs doing the bit for the police in future. Yes, I agree. Right? One of these days we'll be barking orders at us a lot, not the other way around. Oh dear, sorry, Gina, I don't think I agree with your vision quite that much. Well, anyway, whatever you think about it, Toby's here is the Britain's first police dog. I found him down the east, and today someone's just chucked him out on the street. There you go, I knew she would lifted him from somewhere. Oh Gina, you're such a kind-hearted soul, aren't you? To children and to animals. So, dann kann ich doch erstmal hochgehen, oder? Stairs lead up to the experimental stage. Let's go and see what we can find out. 23rd October, the Great Exhibition grants experimentation stage. Oh my, this is the machine that was used to deceive people into thinking instant generous kinases had taken place? Yes, that's right. Or whether it was the machine, it's a little worse than over at the moment. What extraordinary length Professor Herbrain went in order to obtain the research grant? Oh, no, the professor was tricked as well. He didn't know anything about it. Yes, of course, it is amazing though, isn't it? The scale of the whole affair is too very British. So, you're right about that. You'll never see such a grand deception in Japan, that's for sure. Oh look, it's that. What one seeks? So I think we are more or less done here, aren't we? Shall we, Miss Susato? Already? He is the Reaper, I mean, we would do well to keep our distance, I think. But we have permission to be here, from the top. We are perfectly well allowed to investigate this machine, as long as we don't touch anything. From the top, do you mean Lord Strongheart? Exactly. But we can stay here and stare at this wreck for as long as we like. Would have been at the center of the explosion here, and it wouldn't have bent her steel with a will. Oh Mann. Okay, also ich kann das untersuchen. Soll ich ihn ansprechen? Last appropriate man in the world winner 10 years in a row. Be strong, Mr. Naruto. Your country and your assistants stand firm behind you. Lord Van Siegs? What? Well, beautiful weather we are having, isn't it? I thought it was making it clear, quite clear that I didn't want to be disturbed. Apparently, your Nipponese are unequipped to read the signs. I read them. So, what are you doing here? Entry to this area is prohibited. Well, the thing is, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart granted us permission to investigate, on the condition that we didn't disturb anything. And yet you have managed to disturb me. Never mind. Get your business, then. Come to think of it, there are quite a few things I'd like to ask Lord Van Siegs about. Not least of which is that awful case, even though it's nothing to do with this. Ask away, Mr. Naruto, you won't know unless you try. So, Clint. What's the name of your older brother, I understand? Lord Van Siegs? You Nipponese, I always have to be on guard whenever you are around. So, you have been investigating me, have you? No, it's not like that. Well, alright, is it a bit like that? My older brother was also a prosecutor. He was the pride of the Van Siegs family, but tragically, a vicious killer took him from us. The professor, you mean? Is something funny? That's the extent of what you have discovered, is it? I shouldn't be surprised. Sorry, there's more to it then? Luxury work is very much your trademark, isn't it? You are too kind. Are you going to tar all Nipponese with the same brush next? So tell me, what's your interest in that historic incident? That happens, Lord Van Siegs? There's a rather curious case that's come to our attention. Are you aware of the Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork by any chance? I am, naturally. I believe that since last month I featured in one of the displays there for public scorn, of course the infamous Reaper of the Bailey would have been to be exhibited. Well, a particular waxwork has been stolen from the place and held for ransom. A particular waxwork? Which... Wait, you mean... Yes, it's the professor. Mr. Sholmes is investigating the case as we speak. I was unaware of that. He's turned out as white as a sheet. Okay. Are the police trying to locate the engineer Mr. Trevor already? Surely that goes without saying. We are very keen to see him found as well. Trouble is, we don't have much to go on aside from the description of the man we heard and quoted earlier. Which, according to Professor Harebrain, was of a tall, thin gentleman who has straight white hair and wears a black monocle. So, I was just wondering, I mean, I realize it's probably not possible, but we would very much appreciate any more clues you can give us. Wow. Wow, so this was really knows how to take the bull by the horns. Fine. Why not? I have a photograph of the man here from investigating 10 years ago. Though it appears he already had that black monocle at the time. What? Oh, nothing. I was just surprised that you shared that with us. We all need the man's testimony in court tomorrow, which means we have to do everything we possibly can to track him down in the short time available. So why wouldn't I show you the photograph? But what is it about Lord Van Zieks? Sometimes I just can't work him out at all. The file I requested for the trial tomorrow. Thank you. Are you alright? Who is this man, Mr. Naruto? Lord Van Zieks' apprentice, apparently. So I'm not the only one. Susan can see it too. Lord Van Zieks, may we speak with your apprentice for a moment? With him? Why? Kazuma-sama. Kazuma? I don't believe it. Your posture, your presence can only be you, isn't it, Kazuma-sama? That's something strange the very first time I encountered this cloaked figure. As if I knew him somehow. Can it really be you, Kazuma? Wait! Too late. What's going on here? Your apprentice. What is your interest in my apprentice, exactly? You act as if you know the man or something. Well, since when has he been in your care? I don't really recall you having an apprentice before I left Britain 6 months ago. Lord Strongheart introduced him to me about 3 months ago now. with instructions to mentor him as a prosecutor. But he didn't tell you why, did he? The man appears to be suffering from amnesia. He's forgotten every last detail about himself. He has amnesia? Tomorrow he will appear in court at my side. What? He is to serve as my judicial assistant on Lord Stronghold's orders. He will be in court with us. Now then, unless I'm much mistaken, I believe this conversation has run its course. Oh, yes, thank you. I definitely saw a reaction there. When Sudato's son called out like that, it really seemed to hit his nerve. And she called out, Kazuma-sama. Oh Mann. So, dann untersuche ich mal. What a terrible explosion it must have been. Even the steel graters have brackled and twisted in the blast. And what they called a birdcage was right in the middle of it all, just there. But look, Mr. Naruto, that metal grill on the floor. Looks as though it's designed to open. It does, doesn't it? The floor had opened at the precise moment the explosion occurred. The birdcage could have dropped through and disappeared from sight. I don't think there's any doubt that this very elaborate hoax, is there? Okay, das wäre ein heftiger Zaubertrick. This wasn't here yesterday. Really? But if I'm not mistaken, is the cage in which the victim was standing before it was apparently beamed through the air. That's right, the birdcage. According to what Professor Hairbrain said in court, it's made of wood. Or more precisely Japanese cypress, I think. And despite having been an explosion and that falling from a great height, pretty unarmed. What wonderfully durable construction, wouldn't you say, Mr. Naruto? Thought that the forensic investigation team had taken it away yesterday to examine it. Of course they must have brought it back here when they finished their work. But sadly not with the body inside it. No, that's right. Now we were given strict instructions not to touch anything, but still. It's too important a piece of evidence to overlook. We might need it for the trial. So. You already met the masked man, hadn't you, Mr. Naruto? Yes, yesterday, in fact, at Lord Van Zeek's office. I see. And if Kazuma-sama really is still alive, it means that Mr. Sholmes lied to us. I know, we are going to need to speak to him about that. Oh, you are going to have to leave now? The forensic investigation team are due to arrive shortly. If they find you here, it will cause problems. What sort of problems? Foreign affairs problems. Well, we could do without that. Alright, we will be on our way. Let's go, Mr. Sudato. Of course. So. Ah, look here, Mr. Sudato. Ah, yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose because it fell from such a height. Yes, from the height at which the balloon was flying down into the crystal tower below. All of about 30 feet or 9 meters, leaving the man inside virtually dead. Okay. Oh, kann ich das vielleicht zeigen? About this, Gina. Yeah, I'm still learning me letters at the moment. I only know A to E, so if and too much bleeding trouble. Ah, actually, Gina, it's the back of the card that's important. I'll come. That's just a dirty old smudge on the back, that's all. Turns out that this is a very high quality French machine oil. There's a very particular scent, apparently. Ah, you don't say. Let's have a whiff then. You're sure? I don't smell nothing. No, we don't mean that you should smell it. Right. I mean Toby. His sense of smell is so good, he can track people over the oceans, can't he? Professor Hairbrain informs us that this oil is unique to Mr. Drebber's workshop. I think he's picked up a scent. I mean, he follows the scent to the oil? Maybe it could lead us to the dodgy Cow's workshop. That's right, that's exactly what we are hoping. Alright then, we will give it a go. We will just borrow that. But wait, when did you want to pickpocket? If I can lead everyone to the Drebber's workshop, it will be the boss before next week. Ah yes, Gina. I'm sure we'll be promoted. Poor Gregson. Armor Gregson. Right then, Otto, leave it to me. Sorry. We're gonna get going after the dodgy engineer call right this minute. Oh, but hang on, someone's supposed to be on guard duty here all the time. Well, we can't help, we need to go on with your investigation as well, Gina. Right. Oh well, never mind. It ain't gonna be me who got in the neck, it'll be the boss. Oh, poor Gregson, again. Ready, Toby? Got that oil scent, have ya? Come on then, boy. See you later. I do hope the scent of that oil leads them to that swindler's workshop. Yes, I hope so too. I leave before the dog swims across the channel to France. So, time to pass. This 3rd October, Madame Tussauds. Oh my, no wonder it's called the House of Horrors. I like to turn on my heels and go straight home via the confectionery. Being scared makes you crave sweets, I can understand that. I was looking forward to a reunion after 6 months away, but there's no sign of Mr. Holmes anywhere. Strange, she should be here investigating the abduction of the waxwork. Oh well, I suppose he will just have to come back again later. Nice pictures here. It's October, Forensics Laboratory. I believe this is it. Dr. Theis' laboratory. That chemical smell really assaults the nose, and there's plenty to assault the eyes in here too. Looks as though the doctor isn't here. We're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think? What a recent tourist you have become, Mr. Sato. We'll just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls. Keine Musik. Able and set of sharp tools. When you consider each installation, it all looks quite innocent. But why is this when you put them side by side? They seem so horribly disturbing. Might be best not to ponder it too deeply. Seeing the large dome that's open on the desk does make me wonder though, how can everybody concentrate on bookwork with this acrid odor of chemicals in the air? Either have to wave a cast iron constitution, or a really terrible sense of smell. This is Dr. Theis' desk. Oh, I would not like to work in a place like this. A bit tidy though, isn't it, Miss Oda? Imagine how effectively she must work. Lightning is pure, which is bad for the eyes, and the chemical smell can be good for you. You mentioned the skeleton watching over you as you work, which is definitely bad for the nerves. Well, yes, those are valid concerns, I suppose. I can just about cope with an one-eyed Daruma doll watching over me, but that's... In particular... Well, look at this, what a magnificent display case. Every wood has been polished to a high sheen, and the intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet markers really are very skilled, aren't they? Do you have nothing to say about the skeleton side, Miss Odo? Odo? Can't you tell that I'm trying very hard to avoid talking about the terrifying contents of the case? It's how I cope. Well, I will be sure to remember that from now on. With all the bottles on the shelves in this cabinet, an assortment of chemicals. This one here is labeled highly toxic. Oh, that's worrying, because there are also things that looks like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh, yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. The doctor probably spent a lot of time in his room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you are surrounded by death. It looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they've even twitched some since we came in here. Well, no, they wouldn't have their taxidermy mounts, Mr. Nodo. I was afraid we were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself they are just sleeping with their eyes open. Yes, I think perhaps we were wise to put something like that, your Daruma doll, in the display in the office instead. Large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside them. Suppose they are fruit liquor or something, or like the pickled umeboshi plums we make back at home. Ah, but I had jars like that in this laboratory as well. In fact, there are human organs in a preserving a solution, probably as examples of some rare medical condition. Mr. Dodo, there are some things in the world that isn't perfectly fine never to know about, ever. Oh, so as I said, I'm sure they are fruit liquors or umeboshi, aren't they? Of course. Okay. Sunshine. Oh, okay, dann nicht. Dann gehen wir mal zurück zum Gefängnis. Kann ich ja das Bild mal zeigen. Das hier. Mr. Hellbrain, what do you make of this? Ah, okay, doch nicht. Dann halt nicht. Ne, auch niemand. Auch nicht. Hier noch ist nichts. Oder? Doch hier. Here's the searching on the ground that you mentioned. Yes, and what's left on the green balloons envelope. No clear evidence of the balloon that exploded on the day of the accident. Professor Harebrained, I do feel sorry for him that his dreams have been shattered like this. Someone's well and truly burst this bubble, as it were. Hahaha. Ouch, I'm a bad person. Ah, ich kann doch noch nach oben gucken. Ah, wer ist da? What a shame that the symbolic landmark of the great exhibition has been damaged like that. Yes, unfortunately, the birdcage crashed in the most prominent position possible. The gods giving us as a warning, if you ask me. Man must travel under his own steam and not cut corners with inches and kinesis. Imagine what might have happened if the birdcage has landed in a slightly different location. This toll could have been far worse. Or I think perhaps it was a blessing in disguise. Well, the gods are benevolent, obviously. I did say it was just a warning. Man must travel under his own steam, or next time birdcages will rain down on all of you. Your faith is much stronger than I realized. Well, do you think I passed the exam for Yuma University? I wasn't by studying alone. Vielleicht da oben noch was zu gucken. Ah ne, darf ich nicht. Okay. Oh, da gab's noch das Buch. Okay. Das big, thick book. Ich dachte, es hätte angeklickt. It appears to be an accountant ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh, what is it? Clear that the team purchases various equipment on a monthly basis, but, well, one's entry seems rather strange. Really, in what way? They are buying 500 scalps every month. 500? They must be working really hard on dissecting corpses. I don't know, traditional autopsies are only carried out in certain special circumstances. A scalpel's blade can be sharpened too. It does seem a bit strange, you are right. 500 scalpels a month. What could they possibly be using all them for? What are you doing? Sorry, we had something we wanted to ask you, but you weren't here, so you thought you'd snoop around? That's acceptable to you people from the east, is it? Well, what do you want? Lord Stronger told us, you see, it was you who examined the victim's body, Mr. Asman's body, I mean. We came to ask you about your findings, and on Lord Strongheart's advice. Very well. If the Lord Chief Justice was given his contents, I will tell you what our investigation revealed. But when you're done, you must leave immediately. Okay. So, you want to know about the forensic investigation team determined from its examination of the scene? The victim is Audi Asman, who disappeared from the experimental stage amid an explosion. And Mr. Asman, who appeared moments later, part away up the crystal tower, were without question one and the same person. The team's conclusion. But that can't be right. If it was an elaborate trick, we can only speculate about how it was carried out. Let's see if two people who look very similar to each other were involved. They could have made it appear as if one single person had switched places, could they? Maybe true, but sadly in this instance, it was not the case. The man who disappeared and the man who subsequently reappeared was the same person. Fingerprints in the scene make it quite evident. Fingerprints? They are not even yet officially recognized as forensic evidence in the British justice system, but one day they will be used as an investigative aid as a matter of course. Oh my, but that would mean the instance kinesis actually took place. So where does that leave us? My team was asked me with investigation, not drawing conclusions. Institutional kinesis is still possible. Yet the body did move from one place to another. Hasn't cleared anything up at all. Made the whole thing even more of a mystery. Uh-oh. Mama, what is this? Where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? This is lawyer, dear. Oh. Hello, to meet you. Pleased to meet you. Yes, I'm a defense lawyer. Mama. Yes. Can I cut this one up? What? I never seen inside an Eastern person before. I want to know what it looks like. Of course you can't. The live specimen, as you can very well see. Boring. I think I just had a near-death experience. Oh dear, Mr. Nodo, you're as pale as a corpse. Then let's leave before I'm mistaken for one. Well, I think we have done all the investigation we can here for now. We could just determine the whereabouts of Mr. Drebber. Georgina and little Toby won't let us down. Now then, do you think we ought to try to speak with Mr. Sholmes at this point? We have things to discuss and I'm dying to meet him again after all these months. Yes, it's quite possible he might know something useful. You're right. You ought to find him at Madame de Spells. He's supposed to be working there as a temporary waxwork exhibit. Yes, Iris told me all about this latest unusual venture. Give me a hint. Is it October? Madame de Spells Museum of Waxwork. Here we are again, at the House of Horrors. I'm afraid I haven't got used to the place yet. I'd still like to turn on my heels and go straight home, via the confectionery of course. But the sun's really is after something sweet today, isn't she? What's the matter? Look, Mr. Nodo, look at that waxwork. Quite sure it wasn't there before. Looks like it's like Mr. Sholmes, down to the very last detail. Uh-huh. What is it? Oh, sorry, I think you will find, that's the temporary waxwork himself. Ah, the friend of my dedicated employee. Ah, yes, hello again, it's Ryunosuke Naruto. I must say I'm quite spellbound by the great detective. He's a marvel. My precious waxwork is already back where it belongs. You don't mean... But yes, the mystery is solved already. Wow, Mr. Sholmes can really engage his brain when he's hungry enough. So as you can see, he has returned to his habitual duties. Yes. His habitual duties? Others, do not disturb, huh? Sudato-san. She looks very perplexed. I'm pissed. I really do need to speak with Mr. Sholmes, and I'm longing to say hello again. But where is he? I think you might find that he's quite nearby, actually. Oh, wait, what do you... Indeed, my dear fellows, it is I. The world-famous great detective and ex-work, Sherlock Holmes. Nice. Susato-san. Oh man. I must humble apologize. I thought I would die and go into eternal paradise for a moment via London. My dear madam, allow me to make amends by offering you a tasty free deduction at some point. As long as it's not of questionable sweet food quality. I don't understand. Why are you working as a waxwork here, Mr. Sholmes? Barely a secret identity, you understand, though the case is largely solved now. Largely solved? We are talking about the waxwork abduction, I presume. Indeed we are, my good fellow. As I predicted, it was as easy as proverbial pie. Though I confess, I am yet to partake of a pie, proverbial or otherwise, or any food as far today after watermelon. That stomach rumble echoed around the whole museum. How did you manage to solve it so quickly? Ah, well, do I remember I said it was largely solved? Anyway, I simply interacted with the culprit. You're familiar with the so-called telephone? Ah, yes, it's a most modern invention, allowing you to hold a conversation with people far away. Japan, only the imperial capital and a handful of other cities are connected as yet. This morning, a telephone call was received from the preparator of the abduction. Thus, I was able to negotiate terms, and in the end, the waxwork was returned. It's amazing. Just between you and I, it would appear the culprit had always intended to return the stolen waxwork in any event. But I thought whoever was responsible had demanded a ransom, no? Yes, I think perhaps the ransom demand was necessary to avoid unwanted suspicion regarding the true motive. But does that not mean the negotiation was entirely unnecessary? In fact, that I must ask you to keep from Madame Despes at all costs. A hungry young Iris awaits my return to Baker Street after all. Poor Iris. Now then, do I sense that you have some business with this great waxwork? We are in the process of trying to track down somebody down. Oh. Yes, a man by the name of Enoch Traber. He's a swindler who dubbed Professor Harebrain and the engineer who built the Kinesis machine. A swindler and an engineer? Quite a modern man. He also seemed to be a conjurer of sorts too, with considerable knowledge of stage magic. We really need to locate him before the trial resumes tomorrow morning. But we have so few clues to go on, that's the trouble. Do you have any good ideas? I have no data yet. It's a capital mistake to have good ideas before one has data. If I knew something to man's appearance, at least I may be in a better position to help. Yes, Trevor's appearance. Fortunate for you, however, presently I have little to occupy myself and little to fill my stomach. As soon as you find any clue, no matter how small, I should gladly give you my thoughts on it. Mr. Holmes, did you lie to us? My dear Mr. Nodo, stay that piercing stare. What is this about? Last winter when we were first on our way to Britain aboard a steamship, your words were very clear. Now then, let us unreveal this mystery. I discovered what events lead to this curious murder. You told us that it was murder, and you examined Kazuma-sama's body. Indeed, I realized the problem. We met him earlier today, the victim, Kazuma Asogi. You are quite sure? He was wearing some sort of mask and was apparently suffering from amnesia. But yes, I'm quite sure it was Kazuma-sama. You must have known at the time, Mr. Sholmes, that he wasn't actually dead. Well, I cannot assume I was swept up in the murderous atmosphere of the moment. But the fellow wasn't dead at all. Priceless. I don't suppose that performance would pass muster, wouldn't it, Mr. Naruto? I could believe that the crewman present at the time made a mistake. But not you, Mr. Sholmes. I will now tell you something of first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie, and it will serve you well to remember that. Please, Mr. Sholmes. Remember, Kurt, you will find yourself on the threshold of a very great mystery. For now, I'm afraid that is all I can say. Mr. Sholmes, would you cast your eyes over this photographic print? It's of Mr. Enoch Trevor, the face of the engineer we seek. Well, all Englishmen look broadly the same, of course. So looking at the photograph won't be particularly instructive. Are you alright, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, yes, forgive me. Very interesting this, very interesting indeed. What's wrong, Mr. Sholmes? You turned quite pale all of a sudden. I have a suggestion, Mr. Nodo. Will you indict me? Well, what is it? As I explained to you when you arrived, the missing waxwork has been returned. And I personally reinstalled it in the exhibit from which it was taken, beyond the thick curtains. Ah yes, the professor exhibit, isn't it? Would you like to see it? For a mere 5 shillings, that's a special one-time and only price, you understand? What? The opportunity won't come again, am I that? Would you like to see the fruits of my labor? Oh, well, we do have a rather pressing investigation to carry out. Perhaps we could postpone? The price is very reasonable, 5 shillings. I think you will find it's well worth it. Are you being quite serious, Mr. Sholmes? Really, you need only to look at my expression to ascertain if this is in seriousness or silliness. I can never tell with you, that's the point. Very well, it couldn't hurt. Here's your 5 shillings. Gratefulness received. So, the special exhibit awaits behind the curtain. I invite you to peruse it at your leisure. Well, the money's been spent, so let's go and see the special exhibit. So this heavy curtain at last. Okay. 5 shillings we have had to pay. Doesn't seem right somehow that Mr. Sholmes slipped the money into his own pocket, does it? No. Ah, we could ask Gina to retrieve it for us, using her special skills. Pickpocketing police officers and diddling detectives. Is this what makes Great Britain? Makes Britain great? Not to mention the my god prosecutors taking the law into their own hands, or chip-loving inspectors. Inspector Gregson comes off rather well in that list, I think. Ja. Mal sehen, wie der aussieht. 3. Oktober, Madame Tussauds Special Exhibit. Oh dear, I felt a shiver run down my spine as soon as I walked in here. Monsieur Sado, I say we turn on our heels and go straight home. We are a really big confectionery. We certainly can't do that. We have paid 5 shillings already. True. Actually, now I'm looking a little more closely. We have paid a good money to see an exhibition that's clearly incomplete. The nerve of the Great Detective is far more terrifying than anything else in this place. Must be what Mr. Sholmes meant when he said the case was largely solved. Be that as it may, Sholmes certainly implied there would be a clue about the engineer in here, didn't he? But where? Since we have paid 5 shillings, let's do 5 shillings worth of investigation, shall we? Yes, we will get what we paid for. That fear or frustration that's making Susan-san's voice trembling. This part of the exhibit is just as disturbing as the rest. It looks so real. Seems to be a young man in a white overcoat. And he has a large shovel in his hand too. Look. Perhaps we should investigate in a little more detail. What's this here? Well, this would appear to be a lens in the middle, so I believe it's probably a camera? A camera, but it's so small. This technology is incredible, isn't it? I mean, what about Mr. Sholmes' fingerprints? I think perhaps we should treat Mr. Sholmes' inventions as exceptions to the rule. Anyway, why would the man be in the graveyard at night with a camera? I wonder. Perhaps he was trying to capture the moment a dead body came back as a ghost on film? We will just borrow this for a little while, I think. By looking at the photographic plate inside the camera, we can see what picture was taken. The photographic plate. The piece of glass coated in a special emulsion that reacts to the light coming in through the lens. We open the cover at the back of the camera, we should find it. Let's have a look. You should see yourself, Susan. Your eyes are shining. You really do like machinery, don't you? I can see his face very well. Can you? Perhaps if you just... Oh, do you think you should be manhandling the exhibits, Mr. Nodo? I'll put it back exactly as it was, don't worry. Oh. What on earth? How can... Don't believe it. A black monocle? No, is it possible that this man is... Yes. It's Enoch Trevor. The color of his hair is different, but... unmistakable him. Indeed it is. Mr. Sholmes, this man is the subject of your present hunt, I believe. Yes, that's right. Just who is this man? Why is he here in this exhibit? And why does the convict behind him have no head? The head was missing when the model was returned by the thief who stole it. The surprise. So the case isn't yet solved, is it? Did I not say so myself? Largely solved were my words, I believe. They must locate the missing head. To the suit, as Madame would say, will be in grave trouble. Very hungry, I was still awaits my return to Baker Street, preferably with rations. Do you know, though, something about this room? Strange? Strange? What do you mean? Well, the displays in the House of Horrors are supposed to depict real events, are they not? Indeed they are, Mr. Little. Do go on. And, as terrifying as they are, the scenes in the other exhibits are believable. But this one... This surely couldn't ever really have happened, could it? I think it's time I educated you a little about the nature of the incidents involving the professor years ago. I believe I told you a little about the professor yesterday, did I not? He took the lives of 5 victims, everyone being either a member of the aristocracy or royalty. All were attacked by an enormous hunting hound and had their throats ripped from their bodies. Oh gosh, an enormous hound? How awful. After taking the life of his 5th victim, the killer was apprehended. It was a case of unprecedented magnitude in Britain, you understand? Accordingly, the professor was tried in a closed court. No members of the public were permitted. Closed court? Do you mean that the professor's identity... Do you have surmised, my dear fellow? His identity was never made public. Naturally, he was found guilty and was summarily sentenced to death by hanging. He was buried in a grave at Longgate Cemetery, which adjoins the rear of the prison where he had been held. However, it was not the end of the affair. Oh. The very night he was buried, the convicted man came back to life. Came back to life? Clawed his way out of the ground and emerged into the moonlight graveyard. The exhibit here depicts the very scene as described by the sole witness to the chilling events. There was a witness? Well, of course, my dear fellow, there was none other than the young man in the white overcoat. Enoch Trevor, he saw it happen? Okay. So this is a backtrack model of Enoch Trevor. 10 years ago, the convicted professor have been killed and buried emerged from his grave in a state of night. So witness to this unbearable scene was this young man. From appearance, I would say he was about 20 years old. It's so horrifying. Get out of his wits, the young Trevor went to a nearby police station to report the incident. And the sheer terror of what is seen is said to have turned his hair white overnight. Yes, as shown in the photograph we have of him, he is completely white. For the following few days, the victory and story of what is seen was on every front page in the capital. The public was frantic for every last detail about the killer that came back to life. As you have been seen, the exhibit was recreated here at Madame Tussauds. I can quite understand why the man's hair turned white, certainly. But what I don't understand is what Mr. Trevor was doing in the first place. In a lonely graveyard in the middle of the night. Yes, what he up to? The professor acts of terror threw London's upper class into complete panic 10 years ago. It was a great scandal, one might say, at the highest levels of society. And since the killer's identity was never made public, rumors abound. No killer had ever before systematically employed a dog as a weapon of murder. Yes, I can imagine the impact the cause must have had. Case. But in time, of course, the rumors had plated. So too did talk of the shocking witness account of the convict who came back to life. It was forgotten, dismissed as a dubious ghost story, as a preposterous parlor tale. But why did people stop believing it? Why? Simply because there was no resurrection to speak of, as was established as fact. What do you mean by no resurrection? Police investigated the grave in London Lowgate Cemetery and published their findings. The convict's body was found to be buried exactly where it had been following the execution. No, but that would mean Mr. Trevor must have lied to the police and the newspaper? That would appear to be the only logical explanation, yes. The young man subsequently vanished from society and nothing has been heard from him since. It's rather striking then that he should resurface now, I think. Because the convicted murderer couldn't really have to come back to life, it's not possible. But Trevor's hair is unusually white, and if that really did happen overnight as a result of shock, hard to believe that incident was an out-and-out lie. Okay, was also gibt's. This must be the killer, the fiend known as the Professor. Yes, I think so. According to what Madame Tusper said, the killer had 5 victims, all of noble royal blood. The Professor is so lifelike, isn't it? Like automobile is in the place. I know, it looks like it could start moving at any moment, doesn't it? Only I had a head, that is. It had. I should examine it a little more in detail. Ah, da auch noch, okay. Drehen. This is the condemned man. Yes, the so-called professor. Then perhaps head was chopped off by a guillotine. But unable to find peace, he emerged from his grave and a headless ghost. Do we have to entertain such terrifying ideas, Mr. Sudato? Anyway, I'm sure the model had the head once. There's a metal fitting for it, see? And perhaps Mr. Schaub's absent metal forgot to reattach it? An extremely absent-minded, I think you are describing. No? Or perhaps the thief absent-minded forgot to include that head when he or she returned it to the museum? And that would be extremely absent-minded thief. Would there have been some reason why only the head wasn't returned? Well, whatever the reason, means we don't know what the face of the infamous professor looked like, do we? Oh. Something thought on inside the convict's jacket here. Looks like a piece of broken glass. Quite a big piece too. Very thick, isn't it? About 5 times thicker than normal window window glazing, I should say. Which could such a thick piece of glass have come from, I wonder? Suppose it must have been made thick to increase its strength. But why? Well, perhaps because the glass had to span a particularly wide area, such as in a big building, for example. Ah, well, we have seen a large glass building recently, haven't we? And some of the glass was broken too. You don't mean... Exactly, the Crystal Tower at the Great Exhibition. Why would glass from the Crystal Tower be lodged inside this waxwork jacket? Make you think, doesn't it? Earlier in Kurt, we established that the kinesis experiment was a trick. And now we discover this fragment of glass here in this waxwork. Is it just a coincidence? Ich glaube, es ist kein Coincidence. Ist zu wissen. Aha! Was? What the bleeding Nora? What have you gone on done? Gina, what are you doing here? I asked Iris, and she said this is where you had been. So, Gina, it's not so loud. Madame Tuspes will have you take a position as your waxwork if you are not careful. I think there might be a more pressing concern. I still had some flesh powder left from 6 months ago, so... Alright, Gina, we understand, but please, put down the gun. Okay, reg dich mal ab. Sorry, I got scared. You should try being the one on the other end of the barrel. So, what brings you here, Gina? What brings me here? What do you think? We found it! We found it at Dodgy Calf's workshop. What? You found Trevor's workshop? Yep, Toby's nose took me straight there. The boss and the other are heading over the now in the track, so come on. Here's the address, I got the boss to write it down. Oh, thank you, Gina, we'll make our way there at once. Alright then, see you there. You go. Don't mind me, I will just stay here, being still. What? I know my place, in the exhibit over there. Oh dear, someone is feeling sorry for himself. Let's go, Mr. Holmes, you're coming. Your words hurt me, I must say, but if I were to shirk my duties here, Madame would have me pay moderate recompense, and I will still never... Forget that, I will pay for everything. Then there's no other moment to lose, my dear fellow. I shall head to carriage at once. Now offer to share the cost for Mr. Sholmes, then. I shall gladly pay half, Mr. Nodo. Thank you, Mr. Dotto. Right, let's go. And this 3rd October and not Trevor's workshop. This looks like another super high voltage intensious kinesis machine. Indeed, it would appear so, though only a prototype, naturally. So you got there then. Gina, well done for finding this place. And in such little time, I really worked miracles. It's Toby who is the miracle worker. I thought your lot would show up before long. Hello, Inspector. That's one knitted brow. Looks like he is eating a lemon, not a bag of fish and chips. Hello, Inspector. Is there any sign of the engineer? Sadly not. We didn't find a soul in here. Oh, what a shame. Well, thank you for letting us know about this place and giving us a chance to investigate. According to what Gina tells me, we only find it thanks to a clue that you lot turned up. I wouldn't want to say but the purpose with a debt of gratitude unpaid now, would I? Thank you. Anyway, if you're hoping to snoop around in here, I would get cracking. Alvan Zeeks and the forensic investigation team are on their way here as we speak. Them again? I imagine you have got the picture by now. They don't take too kindly to lawyer types. Alright. So then, my dear fellow, let's turn this place upside down while we have the chance. And you, Joms? Pardon? They take even less kindly to great detectives than they do to the lawyers. Very dull, Gregson, very dull. But you may consider me nothing more than an inconspicuous waxwork model. Right then, let's see what we can find here. Medicines are fine. This is the European style quiver of arrows with steel balls inside. Oh, do you suppose? Crossbow balls these. And just the right size for the bow you lot turned up at the exhibition grounds. In other words, yep, more evidence to support your theory. It all goes to show that River was the one pulling the string behind the scene of the whole scam. Yes. Sorry, Mr. Nodo, that machine is covered by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. There would be serious repercussions if you were to examine it from the Crown and the government. Well, these two don't seem to be holding back. Quite hello inside. No working parts or devices of deception to be seen, my dear fellow. No loose change dropped on the floor or nothing, not even a bond for Tobia, my dear fellow. British people are very much ruled by their own ideas, aren't they? I think that's just is true, Mr. Dotto. Ah, this appears to be most interesting. Yes, most interesting indeed, would you say? An impressive looking back message here, that's for sure. No doubt that if you hit your shoulders a few times with that, your aches and pains would soon go away. The Royal Society Trophy for Excellence in Science. A young scientist could wish for no higher honor. Would you like a massage? No, I'm fine, thank you. I had no idea it was such a grand thing. I think it's becoming increasingly clear that there's much more to this Mr. Anna than conjuring tricks. Couldn't agree more, my dear madam. And how about you, Mr. Naruto? Wouldn't you like to take it with you? For your tired shoulders, of course. Not going to let that go, I see. Curious though, isn't it? You would expect such an important trophy to be proudly on display somewhere, not ever subtly cast aside. English gentlemen can be quite a mystery at times. Science trophy has been entered into the court record. Sucht sonst? This door doesn't want to open. Yeah, looks like it's got a pretty heavy lock on it. There's a specialist locksmith on this way over from the yard, so hands off until he gets here. With permission, Inspector, I could have that lock open in less than a minute. Well, you don't have a permission, and no one's giving it to you. Gregson looked as though he really enjoyed that. Well, there's no sound of anybody on the other side. No, the rat must have fled at his first sign of danger. Oh. Something wrong, Mr. Dotto? Well, I thought I heard a noise. The far side of that door. Well, Gina, did you hear it too? Yeah, I heard it and all. You recon, Toby? Right, mind the crease. Oh, what? Whoever's in there, open up, this is Scotland Yard. Oh my, someone is in there. Ah, this rotten bleeding lock. My dear Gregson, as I said only minutes ago. If only it were continuous, could unlock the door in less than a minute. Fine, I will take the rep for it. Let's get us through the blessed door. There, you may enter that room. You have confused minutes with seconds. Time is of the essence, I feel. What are we waiting for? Nothing for it, I suppose. This is an emergency. There's a strong possibility that beyond the door is the engineer you all seek. Be prepared for action, my dear fellow. Yes. What happened here? Why is everything upside down? What? Warum sind Fußspuren? Das ist ein grüner Ballon. Also, der Dressur ist aber nicht falsch rum. Hä? Es geht hier. Reds, there ain't no one in here after all. But there must be. It was only moments ago that we heard these noises. Maybe that was the sound of Trevor running away. But there's only one door into this room. And no windows that could afford an escape route. And those skylights are too high. What's that up there? Are they footprints on the ceiling? Blow me. We here then? What? Sieht jemand hier das Dynamit oder so? Like someone was trying to burn something in a hurry. Oh, that looks like a set of blueprints? To what? To the Professor Herbern's bombing machine, is it? Blimey, if we had these, there'd be no need to mug about trying to investigate all that scrap metal. There is something of great interest here too. This rope was lying on the floor at the foot of that pillar. A rope? What's significant about that? Never mind. You see, but you do not observe, Mr. Naruto. We must investigate the entire room thoroughly and before the forensic investigation team arrive. You. This very large safe. I don't suppose even Mr. Sharps could open that lock. Although, if you were a thief, you could just steal the entire thing, I suppose. Hold it on the floor to prevent exactly that sort of underhand trick, Mr. Naruto. Well then, you could just steal the floor as well, I suppose. I'm sorry, but you really aren't making any sense at all. Anyway, I think we can agree that whatever is inside must be very important. Mr. Sholmes, have you found something? Ah, Mr. Naruto. Yes, in point of fact, something rather fascinating. What do you make of this? Let's see, I've never seen anything like it before. Looks like a bundle of cigarettes. Mr. Naruto, what's the matter? That's surely that's a time bomb, isn't it? What? Did you say? A time bomb? I'm sorry, but what is a time bomb exactly? You truly are a one of a kind, Mr. Naruto. I won't take that as a compliment. You don't know nothing, do you, Odo? You haven't got a clue what this is either, have you, China? I invite you to consult a dictionary later, Mr. Naruto. I suspect the specimen is no time bomb, though I confess it has a very similar appearance. Well, thank goodness, but then, what is it? See, so that's it. Goodness, Mr. Holmes, have you heard of the matter? There are times when I consider my lot most unfair. but I'm fated never to know how it feels to flounder as you do when I partially present it. But I have learned to accept the hardship that comes with being a great detective, Mr. Little. Here we go. Feel the great deduction coming. Once again, I can draw two conclusions from the scene before us. First, is that the inverted nature of the furniture in this room is the work of the trapper himself. No, but how could you? And the second conclusion, that the small device on the floor here, without question, completely genuine. Please, Mr. Holmes, you must explain everything. It would be a pleasure. After all, it is a great detective's specific duty to teach Scotland Yard the fine points of the trade. Well, Inspector Craxton seems delighted with the idea anyway. Oh, you deflected and the Inspector glare with such fortitude there, Mr. Holmes. Well done. You are too kind, my dear madam. I have dedicated this great deduction to you. Kindly stand just there, Mrs. Soto. Yes, I would be delighted. So, shall we begin? Once again, Sherlock Holmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, okay. It's plain to see that this room is a complete disarray. The bed, the tables, the chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down on the floor. Every item in the room was on sailing. Are you suggesting that? Indeed, the key here. Oh, was is da? Is gravity. It would appear that technology has at least succeeded in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. The gravity in this room was reversed and then suddenly restored to normality. Oh, goodness! The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. I quite understand your skepticism, Mr. Soto. I too was incredulous at first. However, my conviction in my glances was cemented when I observed this. An anti-gravity device, almost identical to one that featured in a dream of mine only the other day, in fact. But then, why does it have a clock on it? I almost relevant question, indeed. That is a timing device that controls when the gravity direction will switch. There was clearly a requirement for the engineer to be able to restore normal gravity automatically. And the commotion we heard earlier from the other side of the door was the moment that restoration occurred. Yes, the reason why everything here has been turned upside down is because of that anti-gravity device. Now you see, we need to look no further to explain the state in which we now find this room. The direction in which gravity acts in here was reversed by Mr. Dweber, before being restored to normality in an automatic fashion some time later by the time device. I have witnessed practically this scene in a dream I once had when I fall out of bed. Flipped furniture because gravity was reversed. Yeah. Number 2. Missing engineer. Now let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer's friend aim? Inevitably, the greatest clue what we have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there on the ceiling? A question whose answer will lead us nearly to the truth, my dear madam. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Of course, the rebel's aim was singular: to escape. However, there is but one way into this room, excepting the skylight. It is. By inverting the gravity in here, Trevor was able to fall constantly to the ceiling and make his escape via the otherwise insensible skylight, leaving those footprints behind on the way. But the ceiling in here is very high, Mr. Sholmes. The gravity reversal was suddenly, would Mr. Trevor have fallen up to the ceiling rather violently? Falling up is both scientifically and philosophically a rather interesting concept, I feel. But the man was cornered with nowhere to run, so escape through the skylight was his only option. You may recall that I found this on the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Ah, the rope. To reach the intended assassination, what better tool than this rope? By unscrewing one end on the wall, the man was able to lower himself safely to the ceiling. This explains how Trevor was able to escape this room before our arrival. He reversed the pull of gravity and fled via the skylight. And personally, I should very much like to reverse the pull of gravity again now, just for fun. Escaped via the skylight. Yeah. This concludes Sherlock Holmes' great detection of this topsy-turvy puzzle. No. He's completely spellbound. Mr. Sholmes, there's just one thing that troubles me. I would expect nothing less. You are destined to be troubled by just one thing for the rest of your life. Is such a thing actually possible? An anti-gravity device, I mean. I would say that would demand gravity scientific knowledge at the turn of the 20th century. It's no more possible than instantaneous kinesis. But your whole deduction hangs on it. Ah, but my dear fellow, when you have eliminated the impossible, what remains must be the truth. However improbable it may seem. Ah. It's a marvelous line, wouldn't you agree? One of my more enduring pearls of wisdom. Had Iris come up with the exact phrasing, my opinion was clumsy. Yes, I have a feeling I've read it in something that Mrs. Sudo lent me once.
Objection.
Actually, there is one other thing, Mr. Holmes. The spell's broken at last. The rope you found was on the floor, wasn't it? Indeed it was, and lonely coils near the wall. But if Mr. Trevor had used it to escape the way you described, wouldn't it still be tied to the wall? Mysteries inevitable unrevealed in the end, as I think you will find it, the ropes. And as evidence of such, you need only look at the mystery of face in this room, now skillfully unrevealed. The argument is as circular as the coils of rope. I think perhaps we might need to give Mr. Sholmes the usual little helping hand. Oh, okay. Also ich habe keine Probleme gehabt, was da war. Okay. Ja, okay, hört sich doch nice an. Noch nicht mehr lang bis zur... Play. Ah ja, okay. Noch nicht mehr lang bis zur Pokémon Direct. Und wie es noch das hier noch schaffen. With some minor corrections that great detectives' great detection will lead us to the truth. Yes, you're right. And we must do it quickly before enough Trevor gets too far away. If you're ready, then let us resume. Sherlock Holmes' logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction, hold it, Mr. Holmes. So. Wenn du siehst, das habe ich vorhin mal gelesen. Genau, alles ist kopfübergestellt, aber ich denke nicht, dass es an der Schwerkraft lag. Man sieht sogar da genau ein Codewort vom Safe. Oh Mann. Aber nicht alles ist auf den Kopf gestellt. Da gibt es einen Gegenstand, was nicht umgekehrt ist. I think gravity could have been reversed in this very room. I find the whole idea utterly enthralling. Only Mr. Sholmes could conceive of such an explanation. But the man himself admitted it was a scientific impossibility, so... Yes, you're quite right. I must completely discount the idea at once. Oh, that's unusually merciless of you, Mr. Ritter. You have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. The detective himself said so. While refusing to part with his dreams of anti-gravity devices? And I suppose so. Well, let's see if examining this topsy-turvy scene a little more closely. There is some proof that shows exactly what the gravity in this room was or wasn't doing. Ah, look, Mrs. Otto. When everything seems to be upside down in here, the safe is conspicuously the right way up. Yes, that's true. Look more closely at the safe feet. Ah, that's a lot of very large bolts fixing into the floor. Think before you speak. That's what you want to say, isn't it? I really put my foot on my mouth there. I certainly didn't say that.
Take that!
Was? Was? Okay, ich lag falsch. If you can prove it didn't occur. Ja. Ja, aber der Safe ist doch diese Ausnahme. Oder nicht? Oh, was mit der Vase? What? Ernsthaft? Nicht das Schloss und die Vase? Okay. There are bright ways to reveal the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. Upon my word, Master Naruto, you have surpassed yourself. I'm completely turning my argument on its head. Trying to impress your assistant here, perhaps? No one is trying to steal your spotlight here, Mr. Sholmes, trust me. As you rightly say, though, it appears at first glance that all the furniture in the room is upside down. This unassuming slender waist is standing keenly to attention. And unlike this large shape, there's nothing affixing it to the floor. And it's the exception that breaks the rule. In short, much as it pains me, the gravity in this room was never inverted at all. My deepest sympathies for your loss. Oh, poor Mr. Sholmes. But the show must go on, so let us continue with our deductions. Now that we know this controversy is not in fact an anti-gravity device, there remains but one other possibility. You don't say... Also meinst du im Raum? Oh, okay. Ja gut. Nicht so gut. Hoffentlich funktioniert trotzdem alles. Someone deliberately turned over every piece of furniture in here. Yeah. Okay. Ja, hoffentlich nicht so schlecht. Might sound obvious, but leaves one mystery very much unsolved. Namely, why would anyone choose to do that? Right, and naturally there's an explanation. Yes, there's a reason why everything in here has been turned upside down. It's because the anti-gravity device. He's absolutely determined that this device must have something to do with it, doesn't it? I'm afraid the lure of an exception scientific explanation is too strong. Well, there's no doubt that somebody did this. Somebody turned all this furniture over. So whoever it was must have been a reason. I'm afraid nothing comes to mind at all, though. Well, let's look around and see if the answers present itself. Muss das hier sein? Safe combination.
Take that!
Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the safe combination. Precisely, I believe, Mr. Naruto, that you had a very similar experience once, did you not? Yes, last year I bought a lottery ticket and noted the ticket number down on the inside cover of a book, just in case. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart and always make a written note of important information. Just keeping the tickets itself would be more sensible, I think. And what, pray, happened next, Mr. Naruto? When the day of the draw come around, I would forgotten which book I've written a number in and had turned my room upside down to find it. That's it! For people are forgetful souls to head out and always forgetting where they noted things down. Not if you always note things in the same place. I actually won the second prize, you know. But I couldn't remember which magazine I slipped the ticket in. Thank you, Mr. Naruto, but I believe I proved my point now. Which is a very similar scenario has clearly unfolded in this room. Was? Achso, das ist damit. Warte mal. Achso. Das hast du mir. Ich glaube, in dem Moment habe ich dann eine Nachricht gelesen oder so. Aber ist trotzdem gut. Oder so. Also ich finde... ja, kann man machen. Warum nicht? Which that is very similar scenario had clearly unfolded in this room. Finding himself requiring access to the safe to the occupant of this room needed the combination code. He remembered that he had written it on the underside of the piece of furniture, but forgot which one, leading to the state in which we now find the room. Yes, Mr. River overturned all the furniture in here in the desperate hurry to locate the combination code that would unlock the safe. Find the safe combination. So, wo ist er? Now, let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer's friend aim? Inevitably, the greatest clue we have to explain this action is above our heads. Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there in the ceiling? Question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madam. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Well, if a change in the direction of gravity can't explain it, then how did those footprints get there? Yes, I feel as though that particular mystery has just become even harder to solve. Can't think of any other way to explain it at all. Well, life was so much simpler in those Helicon days when gravity could be reversed. It was minutes ago, and those Helicon days never existed in the first place. Well, I suppose we must simply put out our faith in Mr. Sholmes and observe the area in more detail. Putting our faith in Mr. Sholmes is what gets us into the situations in the first place. Was zum...
Take that!
Warum? reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby shoe. And on the close inspection there are clearly footprints all over the balloons as well. In other words, the aim was never the skylight but the balloon. But for what purpose? A green balloon? That seems somewhat familiar, Data. It was a piece of green balloons enveloped that Mr. Naruto and Iris found at the scene. Inside the green balloon that Master Gods claims he saw above the stage when the incident occurred. Was that second birdcage the crux of the whole instantaneous kinesis deception? You mean to say... We assume the balloon in here is a model of the one used on the day. There is a strong possibility something may be concealed inside it. Something our absonder was desperate to retrieve before making a hasty getaway. But the balloon is out of reach. Hence we had resorted to a projectile, namely the shoe. Most probably, Weber intended to tear a hole in the envelope by ascending it with the shoe. However, these efforts were thwarted when the shoes itself became a prisoner of this lofty heights. Oh dear, we desperately need to examine the balloon. Only there was some way we could see inside. You may recall what I found this on the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Oh, the rope. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? The Shams managed to bring the deduction back to the rope. Alright, I have to admit, that was clever. We just threw the rope up to the balloon and then pulled it down to us on the ground. Which is much easier said than done, I feel. And would take us a very long time as well. Sure, perhaps we need a more surefire method. Heck, we already have one, of course, don't we?
Take that!
To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this crossbow? It was found at the scene, in fact, and in all likelihood belongs to Mr. Trevor. If the man had only brought it away within the day, he could have avoided losing the shoe at such a critical time as this. So, shall we? Your curiosity is deeply stirred, no doubt, my dear fellows. What is it that Anne of Grabber was hidden inside that balloon? Bam! What the? A waxwork? Indeed it is. A waxwork head inside a metal mask. A mask that is shut tight and fastened with a strong and quite impenetrable lock. But we can't see the face inside, that means. Just a moment, this is the head of a waxwork model? Does that mean... Oh goodness! I see you have joined the dots, Mr. Dotto. Excellent. Of course, a headless waxwork model. The case of the abducted Madame Tuspel's model that you'd largely solved. It was only the head of the killer that was still missing. Indeed it was, but I believe Madame Tuspel will now have to settle her seizable account with me. This, as you have now summarized, is the head of the infamous professor. Yes. But why is it here? This conclusively confirms my suspicion. Man responsible for stealing the professor from Madame and returning it earlier today was none other than Enoch Trevor. It's incredible. Professor Herbrand's case and the waxworker abduction are inextricably linked by Enoch Trevor's workshop. Uh-oh. Well, it appears our logical pleasure cruise has come to an end, my dear fellows. All that remains is yet to speak with the architect of this adventure. The architect? You mean Mr. Trevor? As it seems quite impossible that he escaped via one of the skylights. Obviously, the man must still be here in the room. What? And his location should be abundantly clear. If you simply reflect on the journey we have made together during this deduction. Enough Trevor is right here, somewhere in this room. So, Mr. Naruto, will you do the honors? Yes, of course. Mr. Trevor's hiding place must be the
Take that!
Top safe. Before we gained access to the big room, we heard noises from in here, which tells us that the engineer was still in the building at that point in time. He was in fact searching for the combination to the safe. And pressed for time, made no attempt to write 22 that overturned in the process, from which we can deduce that this search for the combination happened very recently indeed. In summary, Mr. Enoch Trevor is at this very moment inside the safe. This concludes Mr. Herlock Sholmes' rededuction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. Inside the safe. Deduction complete. So, Mr. Naruto, I think perhaps it's time we ended this game of hide and seek, don't you? By opening the safe, you mean? What else? Let's see. The combination was 1432582. I knew that. Alright then, here goes. Hi. You found me. Right then, sir, Mr. Enoch Trevor, I presume. Correct? You better start talking. You tricked Professor Hairbrain with that bogus machine you built. And you sure have to explain the theft of the waxwork from Madame Tussauds as well. Whilst I would be delighted to answer your many questions, personally, I would advise that you deactivate my little parcel first. Deactivate your parcel? I refer to, of course, to the time bomb I left in the most prominent position. Haha, I see. Stunned silenced. You are all gearing up to die with me then? No? What? Mr. Sholmes, with only 11 seconds to spare, was too close for comfort. I've got one foot in the grave already. If you're trying to help us to get a killer or get us killed. Mr. Sholmes' deductions can be completely life-altering, can't they? Well, my dear fellows, that was a close shave. The reasonable to an anti-gravity device is really quite startling, I must say. Anti-gravity devices don't exist. Phew, I wouldn't push it, Mr. Sholmes. So, jetzt mache ich hier bei dem Spiel kurz Pause. Ist ja nicht mehr lang. Genau, ich guck mal. Mit dem Stream sollte da, glaube ich, kein Problem geben, wenn ich das mache. Weil andere machen es ja auch, machen entweder über Twitch oder YouTube. Irgendwie mal einfach mal austesten. Und dann die Pokémon Directory Stream. Genau. Muss halt nur umstellen und mach mal kurz 1 Minuten Pause. Und stelle mal alles um. Ah, so meinst du das. Ja. Okay. Also je nachdem, wir machen es so oder wir gucken es uns einfach offline gemeinsam über Discord an oder so. Ja. Wie ihr halt wollt. Wenn es einen Claim gibt, wäre halt nicht so cool. Aber ich kann es ja mal ausprobieren. Okay, nee, ich versuche es einfach mal. Ich werde einen neuen Stream starten und bin dann in 2-3 Minuten wieder da. Ja, dann bis gleich.